All right, so we are done a lot earlier than I fully expected to be
Yeah.
from Sony's press. Only lasted a little over an hour. That was probably the lowest fat press briefing that I think I've ever seen in my entire life with E3.
Yeah, I mean, I know I say that I want to see games, but you know, every once in a while I want somebody to come and talk about the game. But I mean, look, we can run down everything that we saw because this was quite literally the length of an episode of House of Cards. So
Well, you know what? I will give you the floor because I know the last thing that they showed you are incredibly excited about, and I'll just let you get in whatever you have to get in about Spider-Man Arkham Arachnid that they just showed off at the end of this presentation here.
Spider-Man is beyond my wildest dreams of what a Spider-Man game could be. It is, look, like you made the Batman Arkham comparison, but the thing about that is that it works, right? And I'm the one thing that I'm skeptical about with this Spider-Man game is it seems to have a lot of quick time events, for the sake of being cinematic. Now I'm assuming that this is some sort of story mission, fighting Mr. Negative's goons or whatever. But and I imagine that a lot of that won't be, all the quick time events won't happen in the open world, but the game looked phenomenal. It felt like a film. Like it felt like I was watching an action scene from a Spider-Man movie. The way Spider-Man moved, the way he sounded is a big deal to me. It is. I'm even growing. The suit is even growing on me.
Anthony in the chat does not like the suit, by the way.
Look, the suit isn't the best, but I can get used to it, and you best believe they're going to have multiple suits to be featured in this game.
And I know that you were also super excited the very last reveal at the end that, in fact, the Peter Parker, or not Peter Parker, but the character in the game is Miles Morales.
Yo, Miles was in the game, man. Like I can't believe that, man. Like this is cool, man. This should be every Spider-Man fan's dream. Like I haven't been this excited for a Spider-Man game since, quite frankly, the PS1 Spider-Man game, because the PS1 Spider-Man game, while it wasn't the best game in the world, it embraced the comic book nature of it, and this seems to do so. Spider-Man has personality. The locomotion looks incredible. The little details, like having to have the web stick to a building. You even saw Spider-Man as he's swinging, like running into a building, and have to kind of try to run alongside it because of the angle at which he threw his web, kind of landed him in the building. It looks amazing, man. It looks amazing, and I can't be. God damn it! I joked off air. I'm gonna be 38 years old by the time this game comes out, but I can't wait to play it, man. I can't wait to play it.
Even I was pretty impressed because it's, like you said, it's cinematic in a way that the Arkham games can't be, because the Arkham games, even though the later ones have taken place, inside of an open world, just don't have that ability to have that grandiose scale that you saw in this trailer. And even like just being able to go, like the fact that it's not like you have to load into a building, like that construction site that he was fighting in was just part of the environment, and you transition right from that to the open world. Looked very, very cool. Like I said, I am not a Spider-Man fan. I'm not a Marvel fan per se, but I am intrigued enough to want to check this one out when it comes available next year sometime, because it looks very good. Insomniac, I think, gets it. I think they know what's up, and it looks like it's going to be pretty pretty solid.
Yeah,
Looks like it's
man.
gonna be pretty solid.
Man, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I'm super excited about it. I'm also excited about. They started off with the Uncharted story expansion, Uncharted Lost Legacy, with two characters that I'm super duper interested in, and I you don't see this type of game starring these two types of characters, women, and I'm super excited for it. I'm an Uncharted fanboy. It looks like more Uncharted, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for me. Yeah, man, it looks great.
It does look pretty good. I'm glad. So again, this was just trailer. Like there was nothing slowing down this presentation. Like you said, they didn't have a single person outside of Sean Layden show up on stage to do any talking, and even he was very brief in his remarks.
He had to get back to that 8-ball.
It was weird though. Like I said, it was very, very strange. It felt unlike any E3 press conference it was actually more, you know what? It was more akin to a Nintendo Direct, basically, in terms of how except Nintendo even has silly bullshit that goes on between the games in those Nintendo Directs, but that's what it kind of felt like to me. They also announced, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, an expansion for Horizon Zero Dawn, which I am all about. That's coming out later this year. Looks pretty good. You and I had some thoughts on Days Gone. So they showed some more gameplay from Days Gone that looks a little bit more varied than the gameplay that they showed briefly last year. So the point that you and I both made while we were talking to each other watching this performance is that if it wasn't for the fact that Last of Us existed, if it wasn't for the fact that like Horizon Zero Dawn existed, this game would be pretty cool and would stand out a lot. But as it is, because those games do exist and because those games are so prominent, and Uncharted as well, don't you feel like that this just feels like more of the same? Like I don't know what makes this one stand apart.
Yeah, I mean, even the main character kind of looks like a young Joel. Like it's this dystopian future where, okay, maybe these people are actually zombies, these enemies are actually zombies, but like you said, they still, like you said off air, the AI still seems kind of, brain dead, like most of these types of
Pardon
games.
the pun.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm not super excited for it. Like, it looks great, right? It looks great, but it doesn't look like anything I haven't seen before. And you're a dude creeping around in the bushes, waiting to get waiting to take your shot, or avoiding combat altogether. You're avoiding combat from zombies and you're avoiding combat from crazy humans. Like, that sounds like The Last of Us to me.
It looked very much like you could be forgiven in mistaking that for a Last of Us sequel if you didn't know any better. Honestly.
Yeah. So I mean, it looks good, but I'm not super excited for it.
They showed off a couple games from Japan that were not expected. A new Monster Hunter game coming to the PlayStation, which is we kind of made fun during the presentation because it's not really our type of game, but this is a very big get for Sony, from Nintendo, especially in Japan. Like, in Japan, Monster Hunter is insanely popular. Insanely popular, and this is going to do very well for them over there and possibly introduce a whole new audience to it in North America, because the game's been living on the 3DS primarily for the last several years. So getting it on PS4 could be a very big deal. And one that also wasn't announced that I had seen previously that they kept under wraps pretty well. This is an HD remake of an HD remake, because they did an HD remaster of Shadow of the Colossus before, but this one actually looks like it was done from the ground up. This looks like a completely redone version of Shadow of the Colossus for PS4. I dabbled a little bit with Shadow of the Colossus when that HD remake came out. It was fun. I don't think it's like one of the best games of all time, like it seems to to get that praise. It was an interesting game, having a game comprised of pretty much 16 very large, very elaborate boss fights is an interesting concept for a game, and I'm sure that there are lots of people that are excited. If this is $40, then I might wait till it goes on sale. Maybe I'll pick it up. I'm not 100% sure though. I wasn't expecting this to happen. So
yeah, I agree. I wasn't expecting this to happen. I won't be picking this up. I bought the game twice. I don't need to. I bought the game twice and didn't finish it twice. I'm not going to do it a third time.
That's totally fair. Terrell in the chat from our pre-show segment was completely right. They did show off some Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. You were happy to learn that the leaked character lists that came out recently, not 100% accurate.
Yeah. They showed more story bits, which, you know, these story modes are a blessing and a curse, right? Like they give people like me single player content when they're tired of, you know, getting their ass handed to them online, but they're so dumb and they're so stupid. But yeah, we saw some different characters. We saw DMC3 Dante, we saw Thanos, we saw Black Panther, which, like, yeah, like
I mean, it only makes sense, honestly. I don't know why they wouldn't have had him in the game from the get-go. So
right. We see a little more of this was story, and the big thing was you can download the story demo now, apparently. So when we're done, I'm gonna run down there and figure something out, because yeah, the game comes out in September.
I mean, I gotta be honest, the story fucking dumb to me. Like,
absolutely,
it's whatever,
right? Like, you know, no, people don't even know who Sigma is. Like, what? That's a Mega Man villain? Yeah, like Sigma's a Mega Man villain. We saw Zero in it. I don't know if Zero is going to be playable, but he's in it. And
I have to imagine that every character in the game they showed during the trailer should be playable.
I hope so. But yeah, all right. MVC4 or Infinite.
Brief Call of Duty trailer, which is what it is at this point. I'm actually glad that they didn't do what they normally do every year and spend, you know, a ton of time on Call of Duty gameplay. We don't really need to see it. We kind of get it. You know what I mean? And plus, Call of Duty has their own events that they run anyway, so that's not a problem there. We got to the VR segment. There wasn't really anything that was standoutish. I guess a lot of people will be excited that you can play Skyrim in VR. Bethesda announced yesterday during their event that they're going to do VR versions of Fallout 4 and Doom on the PC. So this only makes logical sense to do, you know, one of their games on PS4 VR as well. I guess it's cool if you have, I'm assuming if you have the Skyrim HD remastered version that you will get that as a free update. I can't imagine they're going to make you pay for that again. God help them if they do. I know, and you said you weren't really that excited about that.
No, I mean, I like the idea, right, of a game as massive as Skyrim being in VR, but I don't like the idea of playing Skyrim again. You know, just to have, you know, an extra 5 pounds weighing me down on my head. So, but hey, look, if you're excited for it, if you need a VR game to play, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it will be worth your purchase.
I think that Bethesda's honestly just going for the record to see how many times they can feature the same game at E3 for a consecutive number of years. We're up to 7 at this point, I'm pretty sure, at least. So there's that. The other VR games really don't warrant much more than a pass through. There's a space-faring game called Star Child. I could see that being sort of a Metroid-esque style game. The Inpatient looks like a horror game of some kind. Bravo Team, it seems like they're trying to kind of resurrect that SOCOM vibe for those people that have really been wanting that.
Yeah, but then you have to have like 8 people with VR headsets.
I mean, they've run into that problem before. Remember, not that they're trying to do anything so ambitious, but I mean, we all remember Massive Action Game that came out back in fucking 2010 with its 64 versus 64 multiplayer.
Fucking mag.
The most interesting VR game they showed was this game called Moss, which looks like an action venture game featuring mice. I theorize that it might be a game in the Redwall universe of books, which was a fantasy series with mice as the main characters. The first book in that series was called Mossflower. So that could be it. The game could be interesting. We'll have to wait and see more on that.
You're forgetting the big game, the big VR game that we predicted would be there. It's the Final Fantasy 15 fishing VR game.
I don't remember. Did I black out during that part of the presentation? I really don't. I really don't remember that. I must have blacked out for 2 minutes when that came on. Though I'd have to imagine if it was Final Fantasy 15 fishing, that it would be fishing done to the extreme. So I don't know. If that's really what people have been waiting a year for Final Fantasy VR for, I'm very sorry, Final Fantasy 15 owners. If you bought a VR headset with the intention of, well, I'll buy some other VR stuff, but what I'm really looking forward to is that Final Fantasy 15 VR content. Well, hope you like a little bit of pro bass fisherman in your Final Fantasy. God of War looks very different than any other God of War that came before, and I guess we kind of saw that last year when they showed that initial gameplay clip. But even though it's as violent as it ever was and as grandiose as it ever was, it does look a lot more subdued than previous God of War games.
Yeah, I attribute that to Kratos being kind of neutered. Like he seems very old and tired, and before Kratos was high on bloodlust, and I think they're going to try and humanize Kratos, because like the big thing about Kratos in those previous God of War games is that he's an asshole. He's like Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad movie. Like everything that's bad in his life happens to him because of him. And he's taking it out on everyone else, and he's just a dick about it. Whereas in this, he's got a son, and it's a very interesting character turn for him.
In that he has a character,
in that he has a second dimension. You know what I mean? Like he's not just like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. He's like. He's trying to. I mean, now look. Don't get me wrong. He's still kind of a bad parent too.
I mean, Micah, you are not a father. It's pretty commonplace to take your young son on deadly adventures against crazy mythical monsters and beasts.
Right, and to just be like, look. I don't need. Look, you're a kid. But I don't need you to be a kid right now, all right? I need you to have my back. I need you to be able to stab this fool in the eyeball without me telling you to do it. Whereas I'm just like, hey, just take out the trash without me telling you, future kid. Like, and look, I get it, right? You're trying to teach him how to be a man and all that, right? I understand that. But even the kid is like, Mom said that we can use our words sometimes to get out of situations. To which I assume Kratos would just be like, "Fuck her."
There's some controversy in the chat. Was that TC Carson doing the voice, or is that a different?
No, that is a different actor. He is. It's still a black dude. I forget his name, but it is not Kyle Barker. It's not Terrence TC Carson doing the voice anymore.
How do you feel about that? Because I know you were very put off when they stopped getting Mike, or when Splinter Cell Blacklist did not have Michael Ironside.
If this God of War took place sort of directly after the events of God of War, what was it? The last one, Ascension.
Well, in the storyline, 3 was the last one. Ascension was actually a prequel.
That's right. So if this was somewhere around that time, I'd be a little miffed. I like the dude's voice, and because Kratos seems older and just kind of tired, like his voice just kind of like, I'm getting too old for this shit. You know what I mean? So
Anthony in the chat says it's Christopher Judge who was on Stargates as well.
Yes, I knew he was on. It was either Babylon 5 or Stargate, and yeah, that's it. That's who it is. So I don't mind at all.
Okay. You and I are both very excited about Detroit Become Human. Last year, they showed the gameplay from the perspective of an android police officer that you can play as. And this year, they fleshed out the story by casting you also in the role as the leader of an android revolution that's going on in this future Detroit, which is very interesting.
It's very interesting, especially because the guy, I don't know if it is him, but the guy Marcus looks like Jesse Williams, known actor and political activist. And it would make sense to cast him as a minority that is being taken advantage of and is leading an uprising of said minority against the oppressors. Like, it just makes all the sense in the world to me. And he looks kind of like an android, right? Like, he's got like light skin and light eyes, but is black, which is bizarre. Like, he and Michael Ealy are like weird. But I am super excited for this game. I have played every Quantic Dream game, and I have loved them all, even when they inevitably fall apart at the end, storytelling wise. But this looks like, I believe you termed it the culmination of all their previous work, and that's exactly what this looks like to me. I'm super excited for this to experience this narrative, and I'm curious as to how I can't wait to swap stories with people that have played this game to see what they did versus what I did.
I'm curious because so it seems like that you're playing both sides of this conflict, essentially, or at least you're representing characters in both sides of this conflict they're setting up in the game. And it seems like you have direct autonomy over the decisions that those characters make. So it's interesting because normally in a story like this, you are set against, a common foe that the game determines. And in Heavy Rain, for example, you played as, and spoilers for Heavy Rain if you didn't play it, but Christ, it's been 7 years. In Heavy Rain, you do play as the detective who does end up being the killer, but your decisions don't necessarily determine. Like, it's actually kind of weird when that reveal happens, because nothing that you did in the game really had a whole lot of effect on that aspect of the plot line. But it seems like in this one, everything you do is going to really change and evolve the plot in different ways. And you can kind of almost guide it to the narrative that you want, but probably not entirely, because that would, be a little boring if you could just put the story on rails for yourself. So I'm very interested to see what this game is going to look like when it does release.
Yeah. Like, that's one of the issues that people had with Mass Effect. They felt like their choices didn't matter because the story has a beginning and the story had a set ending that needed to be told, and all the other stuff you could play around with, right? But people don't understand that concept. They think, I start a story, and then out of the millions of decisions that I can make, a million endings are possible, and that's just not practical for a game. But this game seems different. This game seems like it'll have 6 or 7 different ways that the story could possibly end. And I'm just speculating, right? Like, I'm basing that on absolutely nothing other than the fact that these people have been doing this style of game for a long time. So the only way that I think they can improve upon what they do is, one, write a story that doesn't shit the bed at the end, and two, have like vastly different endings depending on what you make your characters do. I can't wait for it, man. I'm super excited.
So before we give our kind of final thoughts, I guess in the conference, you guys in the chat that are listening and following along, if you have any thoughts, definitely toss them in there, and we will cherry pick a few of those or some questions that we'd be happy to answer. I'll go first. This, like I said, this tone took on a very different tenor than I thought it would. I thought that they would spend a lot more time. I thought there'd be a lot more talking, and instead they're just like, we're just going to show you guys, 15 trailers / gameplay trailers, and we're not going to worry about indie stuff. We'll show you that, I guess, later. We're not going to worry about bringing a developer out on stage. We can always do that later in interviews and stuff like that. They just really got through the games, and it was simultaneously refreshing, but also a little off-putting at the same time. Like, I was happy to see the games. Sometimes I do like hearing from the developers. I guess that if you really want that experience, if you want the to be able to hear from those folks, then you're going to have to key into those different interviews that'll be going on throughout the week. I enjoyed what I saw, and there are definitely, so let's see, I mean, I'm looking at Uncharted, the Horizon expansion, let's see here, God of War, Detroit, Destiny 2, Spider-Man. I think that's 6 games off of this presentation out of the 15 or so that are there that I'd say I'm definitely going to pick up. That's a fairly good ratio. It's more than Microsoft had. Microsoft showed 42 games during their presentation. So a good show. Definitely not what I was expecting from Sony. Definitely not like a, oh my God, home run, kind of sort of thing. It was a solid double, I would say, from them. Ending it with Spider-Man was definitely the right call, the absolute correct thing to do.
Yeah.
And but another solid presentation. Like if you said yesterday that you give Microsoft a B+, I would have given Microsoft a B-, and I would give Sony a B+ for this presentation today.
Yeah, I would give Sony a B+ just because it gave me what I wanted, but it was underwhelming at the same time. Which is kind of weird to say. Like, they showed me games, right? But I want a little more. Like, it is okay to bring the developers out to talk about the game, to sell the game to you, right? And I really missed that. And it wasn't. It felt rushed. Like, it didn't feel like a presentation. It felt like, oh shit, E3 is next week. Like, throw together a sizzle reel and get some musicians to come up here and act like we're doing a presentation and just play them up there. Because when Sean, your stepdad Layton, came out,
Sean, not my real dad Layton.
When he came out the second time, it was like, wow, that was a great 60 minutes. I was like, what? Like, and then I looked at the time, and yeah, it was like 55 minutes. It just kind of blew by. Like, there was nothing. I don't know. Like you said, I enjoyed what I saw, but at the same time, I wanted more. Which, I'm a dude on the internet, right? Like, that's, I mean, that's just the definition. But I'd give him a B+. I'm looking forward to digging into the rest of E3 to get some actual information on these games other than a vague launch window.
I would agree. So let's go into the chat a little bit. EB Gamer says that he was hoping for more from Sony. Xbox gave out more. I would say Xbox was a little bit more long-winded, and they definitely showed more games, but a lot of the games that Microsoft showed didn't necessarily need to be given a ton of time on the E3 main stage, I feel like, at least. And I'm sorry, like, as good as Microsoft did do, that 10-minute Sea of Thieves demo brought that presentation down several notches, because it took the momentum that they were generating throughout that show and just grinded it to a dead halt, I thought.
Yeah, the presentations were very, very different, which is why they get the same. It's weird they get the same score, but like, you're not supposed to really compare scores. You're supposed to score something on its own merit, which is why I hate doing scores, Jay. But but they did different things. overall, man, this year for E3 just wasn't. There was nothing to get too excited about. I mean, there's no new console. Like, I don't really count the Xbox One X as a new console. So there's no new console to get excited about, and there weren't like there wasn't a lot of oomph. And I'm very curious to get other people's opinions on that, because I mean, maybe it's just me getting old, right? Like, maybe it's just me getting old and not getting excited for E3 anymore. But usually I'm not excited, and then once I'm here, I'm like all in, right? Like, I'm running downstairs and I'm pre-ordering like a ton of stuff. Like, I don't feel that this year.
I mean, I'm still excited. It's just not happening during the events that usually happens during. It's usually during the press conferences that I get the most hype. Yeah. What I found most exciting is the different, like, I've been watching a lot of the Game Slice stream that they've had on YouTube for the past 2 days. I've been watching a little bit of like the Sony stream. They did the pre-show stream before this event started today. That's where I think the information is this year. It's not in the press events. And I think they realize that the press events should just, are there to exist to kind of just get everyone hyped up and kind of blaze through it, and the detailed information can be saved for the people that want to seek it out. You know what I mean? The people that want to dive deep and get into that. So just a different vibe. It'd be interesting to see how that persists going forward. EB Gamer also mentions that he loved Ubisoft presentation. I thought Ubisoft did a great job. I thought this was the best presentation that Ubisoft has probably ever had at E3 since they've been doing them, and I thought they did great.
That's not hyperbole either. It is quite literally the best presentation that Ubisoft has ever had, because one, they don't have a lot of gimmicky co-hosts. They don't have a lot of gimmicky dancing and all that crap. Like, they came out and they came out and did what I wanted Sony to do, which is come out, show games, and talk a little bit about them. In terms of presentation itself, Ubisoft had the best one for me. But which is weird. Like, and not all, but in terms of presentations, Ubisoft had the best presentation. Sony had the best games that I wanted to see, and Microsoft had the new console. So
which means Nintendo's going to come in tomorrow and clean it up and knock it out of the park, of course. Let's see here. Mark Rogers says Sony went all games, no hardware-related news, which was surprising, which we've been talking about. Mad Chocolate Gaming says, I think Sony just got to the point with big games and only big games. Yeah, like I said, not a lot of indie titles.
Yeah, remember a couple years ago they were all indie. You know, they were touting like the PS4 is going to be the indie box.
Let's see. Aaron, what's your new estimate on when Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out? 2019, 2020. I'm standing firm with 2032. That was my prediction, I think, on the show a couple of weeks ago. I think 2032 is a real solid date to peg down.
Well, let's look at this from previous history, right? We first saw Final Fantasy Versus 13 footage. And Final Fantasy Versus 13 ended up being Final Fantasy 15, if you recall.
2005 was the first.
Yeah. Over a decade ago. So this is the real first footage we're seeing of Kingdom Hearts 3. So a decade from now is when we'll see Kingdom Hearts 3. No, honestly, I think you'll see Kingdom Hearts 3 in 2019, 2020 holiday.
Right in time for the PlayStation 5.
Right in time for the PlayStation 5.
Chris says, I think Bethesda's the only ones that really had something worthwhile to show, and even that was really only one game. Yeah, Bethesda, Wolfenstein looked pretty cool. The rest of what they had was mostly expansions or reissues, like they're doing Fallout 4 in VR, like we mentioned. They're doing Doom in VR. There's an expansion for Dishonored. I was in and out during that presentation. I'll have to go back and catch the highlights of that one. But I remember watching the Wolfenstein trailer. That did look very good, for sure.
I'll have to go back and watch it because that damn sure wasn't staying up till the next morning to watch a Bethesda conference. So I'll have to go back and check it out.
Let's see. Amir says we need that Splinter Cell from Ubisoft. I don't know, man. I don't know anymore. Splinter Cell is an in-demand franchise as much as it used to be.
Yeah, once they got rid of Michael Ironside, the goddamn game tanked. So, what does that tell you?
Mad Chocolate comes back and says Dense Pixels clan in Anthem, probably, and there'll be one in Destiny too. But Anthem got enough of a. It's a BioWare game, right? So me and Micah are immediately going to be interested. Terrence was interested based on what he had seen yesterday. So yeah, I would totally expect to see a Dense Pixels clan in that for sure.
Yep.
Mark Rogers says Golden Sun 4 will come out before Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know if I want to live in a world where both of those games ever actually get released, because then I feel like the fabric of time will collapse inward within itself. And and we might all suffer the consequences for that. Seems like a bad idea. Matt Chocolate, he says Scalebound will come out before Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, damn.
Well. Oh, my goodness. Beyond Good and Evil thoughts, Micah.
I'm excited for it. It looks amazing. I played Beyond Good and Evil a long time ago. I barely remember it, so I'm glad this is a prequel. It'll be cool to get back into that world, which is a very, very sci-fi world. I was pleasantly surprised when that big ape was hanging out with that black chick, and that black chick had natural hair. That's a big deal. Yeah, it looks cool, man. It looks very cool. And I quite frankly, I got a little choked up. When those two developers came out, and the one dude was like, I can't fucking believe this. Like it's coming. And I know a lot of people have been super excited for it. I hope it's good. They didn't give a like a release window, did they?
Oh hell no! Are you kidding me? No way.
So I'm not getting too excited until I get some sort of I need a calendar year. Like that's all I need, man. Then I'll start the hype train.
All right, so I think that's going to be it. We've gone about 40 minutes. But yeah, so like I said, a solid, if unspectacular, showing from Sony, and now we look forward to Nintendo. So again, if you guys are around tomorrow, myself and Carrie will be doing a video of our thoughts of the Nintendo reactions. It won't be right after the Nintendo press conference. It'll be later in the day. Haven't decided if we're going to stream that live or not yet. We might just post that as a video after the fact. We haven't decided. We'll see. But either way, that's going to be something that happens. Make sure also that if you did not check out our thoughts and reactions from the Microsoft press event yesterday, that you go on YouTube, check that out as well. And while you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so that you can be privy to all the awesome video content that we have coming down the road. And also check out our podcast. If you just wandered in here and you're like, who the fuck are Dense Pixels? We do a weekly podcast that you should check out every week, because we're fucking hilarious. I'm sorry. That's just.
I mean, you're right.
It's the breaks. That's the break. So check that out, and drop us a line. Let us know what you think. And of course, if you are not in our gaming group on Facebook, go to densepixels.com/fans. That's where you want to go in order to get into the Facebook group, because there's always a lot of lively discussion going on in there at any given time. So that is going to be it. Micah, thank you very much for staying up late with me, as it's 11:15 on the East Coast now.
Yes, sir.
And thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you guys in the chat very much for hanging out with us and giving us some good discussion there as well. We will do this again with you sometime. And see you later.
See ya.